Welcome. This is the Simply King podcast, and I'm Rodney Perry, also known as King. And today I present a very special featured episode. I had the gracious opportunity to be featured on Cole Johnson's Revelations podcast, and it was a very in-depth, very personal episode. It's a great podcast with a golden voice. I think you guys will really enjoy it. We talked so much, we had to split up into two parts, but still great content. So, hope you guys enjoy it. Definitely going to be back with, more original content soon. Just keep on listening. I appreciate all the love. Peace. Enjoy.
Before I graduated, I seen so many people having like radio shows. Looked into it, was extremely prepared, created a concept and segments and even certain times of day that I believe would be best suitable to the campus community.
Welcome to Revelations, the place where we communicate truth to power. I am Cole Johnson, and I am so glad you're able to join us. He has takes about every single situation that will blow your mind. Ladies and gentlemen, the host of the Simply King podcast, Rodney Perry, aka King. King is his moniker, and this is his Revelation.
Rodney, you feeling cold?
Oh man, I'm feeling wonderful, man. I'm feeling wonderful. And just to speed all of you up, now we've had a riveting conversation before this interview began, and I am absolutely pumped. And you're going to hear why I'm absolutely pumped, because, and I figured since I'm going to do it this way, I'm going to do segments. And the first one is going to be called Open the Way. So we're going to open the way for the people.
Okay.
Live in Chicago, but you weren't born there.
No, I am originally from Jackson, Tennessee. It's I guess somewhat, I literally talk to people all the time, and I guess I always describe it as a small town because that's what it felt like to me. And relatively small town in between Memphis and Nashville. We're where you stop to get gas and do all other things, because this is the point of civilization if you're going either east or west. In Tennessee, if you're in that section. Grew up single mom. I have a sister. I think for me, I think I had a very keen sense of just kind of learning things and trying to find out more and getting more information about things, because I had so many questions. Being from a small town, I believe, certainly can make you very kind of lowbrow and see the world in just the space that you're in, or also ponder on the exteriors of where you are. And I think I was definitely one of those individuals who always thought past my small town. What am I seeing on TV? How do you get there? What is this place? What's going on? And just asking so many questions. And I think that's what developed me at an early age to be very philosophical in my approach to life. I think it truly shapes the way that I process things, just asking why, or wanting to know more, or trying to figure out how certain things are and what certain things, what makes certain things go. And I think that accompanied with this sense of improvement, I think I feel like I immediately connected the people who were successful, the people that seem to got a lot out of life, were individuals who seem to be about improving themselves, seem to be about increasing the value of their environment, increasing the value of themselves in so many different ways. So I think early on, I think it just literally just started from just reading a lot of, quotes, a lot of very inspirational material, and just taking in certain perspectives or seeing a certain light and just reading, randomly reading Tony Robbins, randomly reading, all these different individuals who were just dropping gems. And I think it shaped the way I kind of not only spoke to individuals, but also just my perspective. I think it made me into an optimist. I think it makes me, because I always am thinking about, like, I know I'm supposed to be better. I know I'm supposed to be better than where I am now. I know there's room for improvement. I know there is space to be more than what I currently am. And I think I always have had that urge and that sense of my existence is one that it feels like it's more than what I'm seeing. It feels like I should be more than what I currently am. And I think I've had that feeling since I was a child. And I feel like, signs of those things being true have manifested throughout my life, just from church and my mom telling me how it's, people within the church who just speak so highly of me, and, putting myself in very adult spaces and being able to handle conversation, and people just being so kind of enamored by what I have to say, and just this attraction to my voice as a whole. And then, going into college or putting myself into certain spaces where, because I still wanted to prove certain things to myself. I still didn't want to just believe what people were just saying to me, the compliments that I was getting. Like, I literally had to test those things out. I wanted to literally, not only just be involved, but make sure that it's not a fluke. Like, am I truly a leader, or am I just the person who just volunteered? Or maybe I'm just in a room full of uninterested individuals and students. And so I threw myself into leadership in a lot of different ways throughout my life, until I realized that true leaders are not ones that are just the people who just so happen to, stand up first, but they're the people who people choose sometimes. They're really who people want to be there. They see them there. And so often in moments where I've stood up and volunteered to lead something, and there's moments I've stood in the back and still had to lead. And so I think there are certain intrinsic qualities that people possess that truly designate their personalities. And I think I'm very amicable as a leader. I think that was the interesting quality that I learned about myself, was that I'm just my personality, just literally my personality is what I think is what makes it something that I notice that I cannot deny, and that I can't sit here and say that, well, maybe I'm not the person that should be ahead or should be, in charge of this or that. And once I got to college, I think that was when it was a full-fledged realization. And King, the moniker King, came out of that experience, came out of that journey. It was just a joke at first. Kids don't know anyone else named Rodney other than Rodney King. And it kind of stuck. And it kind of stuck to a certain degree, but I definitely didn't want my name to be associated with that or to answer to anything associated to that. So I definitely said, I think I put my own meaning towards it. And for me, it was all about a sense of persona, a sense of mindset, and just thinking a more regal, more higher thought, more thinking highly of yourself, thinking higher of yourself. And I think that was why the moniker of King and all those different things is kind of stuck with me. I really believe in Blackness and humanness are one and the same. And I think I push my show to be exactly what it is. I'm a Black man. I am who I am. The people who I'm going to bring on are people who I actually know, people who I actually have gotten some type of rapport with. And those are the people I want to have on my show. And if you come on to my show and believe this isn't content for you, then I want you to acknowledge the humanity that you will witness within this production, because we are human too. So I'm not presenting this as, this is just a Black show just for whoever it is for, just for the people who are, Black as well. But it's, for me, it's a show where anyone can tune in. You can get a lesson from this. You can get some knowledge from this. And even when we're talking about things that are centrally just steeped in Blackness, you still need to listen. You still need to hear it. You still need to get something from it. I think that's kind of, I guess, the only way I can open the way to who I am from beginnings to now.
Well, you definitely opened the way for real. Well, firstly, I have been on your show, so
yes.
So in light of what you said about that, I totally appreciate that, and I have a new appreciation and a new gratitude for the fact that I appeared on your show. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Yes, it was a great episode.
It was, and I mean, like I said, you dropped so many nuggets. The fact that, and I'll go to this, the fact that you said that you were a product of a single family household,
mm-hmm.
and you came out the way that you came out. I don't detect any bitterness in you. And normally, and I'll say this as a stereotype, normally the stereotype is if you come up under a single parent household, there's a tinge of bitterness there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tinge of, my father wasn't here, and you know what? Since my father wasn't here, forget all of y'all.
Yeah.
The only person I'm gonna give love to is my mom.
Yeah.
I don't get that energy from you, and I think it's a credit to your mom, and definitely a credit to you
mm-hmm.
for not letting the bitterness overtake you, or
mm-hmm.
or at least if it did, finding a way to get past it and break through it.
I went through a lot of trial and error, and I think that's what a lot of people who grow up with our fathers do, is just go through a lot of trial and error of just figuring out yourself, figuring out how these things work, figuring out what does a man look like, what does these certain things look like, and it's a sad thing to witness, because no one wants to be LeBron's father. No one wants to be the person who was not there to watch greatness happen, to watch their son become, or their son or daughter become, this gift to the world. No one, because then it's like, what did you not see? Why would you not want to be there? Why would you not want to, accept your responsibilities? Why would you not see value in yourself enough to see that the thing that you produced into this world, you don't want to be around?
Well, I'm glad that you ended up having this journey come to where it is now, where you can look at it from a positive aspect rather than a wholly negative one. And I agree. It takes a lot of maturity and some perspective to
mm-hmm.
get to that aspect and get to that point in your life where you just choose to not hold on to that bitterness any longer. And it is not an easy decision to make, and it's not an easy journey to take.
Yeah,
but
it's not.
Yeah, but you took it, and man, you're better for it. And it's unfortunate, it's unfortunate that you have parents who show you they're human too with the mistakes they make with their children. This is Rodney Perry, the podcast host of the Simply King podcast. I'm Cole Johnson. This is Revelations. And I want to now segue into this new segment, and it's called Bridge to Prosperity. So what drew you to Atlanta, and then particularly what drew you to Clark, Atlanta?
The short version of the story is really just I was applying at several different schools. I wanted to certainly go to school out of state. When it came to senior year, I didn't know how possible that would be. So I think I was definitely being very realistic about what my options were, because I just was like, I would love to go to school out of state, but where? Like, where would that be? And I think I didn't know much about HBCUs, and which is funny, being from the South. I still didn't know that much about the history of them, the history of them to a certain degree, because I feel like where I grew up, so many people, they go, everybody's shooting to go to big schools. I played sports. Everybody shooting to like go to big schools, go to, play ball for somebody. So I think that was what was filled in my mind. And because and there were schools that I obviously knew of that were HBCUs, but I didn't connect the two. I didn't connect, these are HBCUs. I thought these were just a school that a lot of Black people chose to go to. Like that's a thing. Like, I mean, it's a thing in high school. It's a thing in everywhere. I didn't think to look into the significance of what that was. But yet again, I think that's a fault on our education system. I think we should know that exists. But my aunt has a son that's close in age with me, my cousin, and she took me and another cousin of mine on a tour. She asked me, did I want to go on a tour to Clark Atlanta University? And I already was kind of somebody put a bug in my ear to kind of, look into Morehouse, And so I thought about that. And so I was like, yeah, I'll go and I'll probably be able to see Morehouse while I'm down there. Yeah, whatever. And I think I definitely seen it as just a way to go and see Morehouse initially. But as soon as I touched the campus and felt like was welcomed in this very familiar way, like they knew me already, like it was family. It was that first sign that made me feel better, feel comfortable, opened me up. Then I walked the promenade, and it was the week after homecoming. So the fact that it was a week after homecoming, it's 10 a.m. Everybody who's walking throughout campus looked like they're dressed to the nines. Like everybody was dressed to the nines, and I've never seen something like that before. And it just blew my mind because I'm like, really dressed up it's 10 a.m. in the morning. Like y'all going to class looking like this, that part excited me too. And then just, the mystery of it all, like, man, could I be here? Like, what could I do here? What could really happen here? And it's in Atlanta. On top of that, like, not only am I going to come here, it's also in Atlanta. A place that was my first time going to Atlanta in that moment and all those different things. So for me, I was immediately sold, immediately filed, submitted an application and told myself, like, if I get accepted, I'm going to do everything I got to do to go to this school. And certainly, pressed it on to my mom too. And she encouraged it. She was really big on us, me and my sister going, being educating and just traveling the world, honestly, just getting out of Jackson and being more than where being more and seeing more than what we were currently doing and seeing. So when I got accepted and came on down to Atlanta, Georgia, it was a beautiful experience immediately. And I think about it all the time. I still have, I've made lifelong friends. It was an experience that I believe I cherish so much. And I think, a teacher of my institution, historical and significant figure, W.B. Du Bois, who has a bust on campus, like right in the center of campus, profound, who essentially said something that I believe is very true for still to this day, even though he said this over, over 100 years ago. He essentially just said his experience is the experience that all African Americans in this nation should experience. He went to Fisk University at HBCU within Tennessee, and then thereafter went and got his doctorate at Harvard University. And they didn't even accept, some of his introductory credits, so he had to even stay there longer than he needed to complete that program, and became what he now known is his Black History fact, because a lot of people don't know him past his Black History fact, and that is the first person to ever receive a doctorate from Harvard University. But he has this sense of like our consciousness and our minds. We need to go to a school that is about us, where race doesn't matter. Because I think people think it's the other way around. They think you go to a predominantly white institution and that's where race doesn't matter, but race matters the most there. This is a very heterogeneous situation where everything is different. There's opposites of things and a variety here. So because there's a variety here, that means we must still accommodate the variety that we have, accept it. So to accommodate, you have to make these individuals comfortable. So what do? You create multicultural centers. You create, Black student unions, the Black Student Association. You create, yes, you can have Black Greeks. Yes, you can, have your own dorms where if it's just y'all, that's fine too. Yes, we're going to not only give you your regular graduation, we're going to give you a Black graduation too. To me, I never understood how people welcome that idea, because it's like there's a lot of significance put onto who you are and what you are. And you say that you go there so that cannot matter. So you can, quote unquote, be in the real world, they say. And in my mind, we're being honest. To me, I believe we're being more honest with ourselves when we attend the HBCU, because 9 times out of 10, when you do attend these PWIs, you're going to find Black friends. Your circle is Black. The people that you hang around with most of the time, no matter what school you're at, in most places all over America, that is who you're with. That is who you're hanging with. And that is who you're going to be with for 4 years. So how is that living in the real world? Because you're in closer proximity to whiteness than I am. You see what I'm saying? And I think for me, race does not matter when you're at a HBCU. And I know for some people may think like, well, how does it not matter? It's an all Black school. Of course it matters. And I was like, it doesn't. It's the last thing we talk about, because it's always us. It's always about us. It's always about this. And you do bring in the humanness of it, because you have to then diversify within it and widen out and notice that this is really not a monolith. We're not all the same. Being from the South, being from the North, being from a whole different country, we are still very different in our mindsets and how we approach life. And that's why I believe that's why you have HBCUs are still the leaders in graduating the most. Social workers, doctors, dentists, lawyers, they come from HBCUs. And I think that is proof in the pudding that that is what Black excellence is, because my HBCU is probably in maybe like the 3,000-4,000, maybe 4,500 people. That is probably just a portion of some of the Black population at a lot of these PWIs. They're talking about 40,000 students, and the Black students may make up let's say they make up just a fourth of that. But yet you aren't graduating more? Doctors, lawyers, all these different things, the HBCUs, and there's less HBCUs. I feel like there's like right at 100 at this point. How is that a thing? What is happening? What are they doing different? Why are they excelling into the point that they're excelling in? And I believe that is the secret sauce to it all. It's very obvious. It's like, that is what it is. Being around people who look like you. And it's not even a sense of separatism. It's more of a sense of, this is the reaction. This was the reaction to what the world was, what the world is, still to this day. And I think that's why they're still very beneficial to where we are in the world, and why they, to me, should be supported and uplifted and funded and financed through whoever would like to, because it's a beautiful thing. It's doing beautiful work and connecting so many different people and keeping people feeling good about themselves, feeling enriched about themselves, full on support that. What I do not support is Black people coming down hard on HBCUs as if they don't have a purpose. I really don't like that. I see it as being very anti-Black, because it's like, you might not be saying this. You might be just only talking about HBCUs right now, but you're saying that HBCUs are this, that, and the third, all these negative things. You're literally saying that whatever white school is better just inherently, because they provide all those things that you believe to be things that are going to make you better, that should, quote unquote, make you better. But I think people just literally just neglect so many different thoughts when it comes to that. Just going to a PWI does not, you do not escape loans. You do not escape debt. You do not escape accountability. You do not escape racism and all these different things. Like, it's not a better situation. It's subjective. It's what works for you. And that could be just what it is. That's all it is. This is what works for you, because at all of these institutions, you're emulating things that literally happen at HBCUs. You have Black Greeks, who are inherently an HBCU thing. When you have homecomings at these PWIs, these very large schools, you always try to make sure there's a section of just Blackness where y'all can do y'all thing. And it's that just the energy around that, to me, is what I feel like you're not being honest with yourself. You're not really seeing this in a full scope, in a full spectrum of how this works. And we're talking about education. How can you argue with me about where I chose to go to be educated? How can you try to talk down to me about a place I chose to go to that is educated? Because you're only perpetuating the notion that we have to fight when we do go into these interviews after college. Because you don't know how often I had to tell people where my school was located. It's in the name. And I think that's the weird energy and the weirdness around it. And I love everything about that, though, because I feel like it literally fits my personality to the highest degree. Because I believe that I am complex. I have multiple things going on with me that are part of my personality, a part of who I am. You do not need to just judge me on like a book by its cover situation. Like, I believe that's a lot of who I am. But I think a lot of what my school promoted, our mottos, were simple: find a way or make one, and culture for service. And a kind of subline or kind of theme around our school was the spirit of greatness. And it was very big on just your individualism and you always creating opportunities for yourself, always seeing yourself as, the strongest individual of a whole unit, and being able to still be, team player, but also making sure that everything about you is strong too. A lot of people want to be somebody. And I don't think that's wrong, because I think you're trying to, I think there is an energy of trying to improve yourself within that. And I think that's what is the beautiful part about that, is because you see yourself and you're like, okay, I'm now in a new place. I'm really meeting and seeing people who are doing things I've never seen before. I've never seen Black people talk this way or talk about these different things or do these certain things or whatever it is. I want to be a part of that. I want to be into that. I want to be all about what that is. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And I think people need to see it, because a lot of people don't know. Like, it blows my mind. I've met so many Black men and Black women who have had a very white surrounding around them their whole lives. And they now want that because they're not in the real world. And the real world is very white. Their workplace is very white. And they feel like they've missed that. They possibly missed that opportunity to experience that. And that's why I tell people all the time, it was wonderful. Everything I'm telling you was wonderful. I'm not going to it's not a sugarcoat. It's not a dumbing down. If you believe everything that you're imagining, add 10 to it. Because that's how great it was. To genuinely not think about those types of things, be able to talk about the things that are happening in the world. Like, that's a beautiful experience. It's such a beautiful experience. We can have unfiltered conversation with nuance, with still different perspectives, with a whole professional adult, with a professional teacher who's going to give us even more perspective on it that we didn't even have. Can you do that everywhere? Like, can Trayvon Martin be shot down and the whole campus feel affected and the whole campus react to it, and literally the staff, faculty, all make whatever they're doing that day about that? Like, where can you do that at? A moment of silence, a light vigil. We're in class, whatever class it is, we're going to find a way to still talk about this. Because when I am in these situations, I'm like, oh man, this is a lot. This is too much. But I'm glad I was at least able to know that there is help. I'm not alone, that I can still connect and talk to people, and we can still have that open discussion about what is occurring in the world, and it be, a very good conversation. Yeah. I love my school. I love my alma mater. Love it, love it, love it. It'll be 5 years. I've been out next year, and I'm definitely going to homecoming next year, and it's going to be great.
Rodney Perry, intellectual and podcast host of the Simply King podcast, is joining me on Revelations. And we have a purpose in life. And I think it's funny, you were talking about that in your journey in Clark Atlanta University. I believe we all have a purpose in life. In this segment, I would like to get to understand, and I think I have a bit of an understanding of it, but I like to delve a little bit further in behind the purpose.
Okay.
All right, so you grew up in Jackson, Tennessee, which, if I'm not mistaken, that's 70 miles northeast of Atlanta, northeast of Memphis.
Yes.
You moved to Atlanta to go to college there, and your experience was extremely broad, and it's still, I can hear, it still fuels you to this moment.
Yes.
Which is beautiful. That's awesome. But you decided to go to Chicago. What precipitated your move to go there?
Two things. I think it was the reality of just literally not being able to find a job. And I think a lot of that had to do with my appearance. And because I do have like back length locks for the people who are listening. And
we're gonna get to that. We'll definitely get to that later.
And I think because of that, that was something that I didn't think was going to be a thing, because I'm like, we're living in 2015. I would hope that this isn't a thing, but I feel like it was moments where I felt it. It was moments I felt it directly once I moved here and was doing interviews and things, and it's definitely people who gave me that feeling that that's what was happening. And I was dating someone who was from Chicago, and she essentially kind of just presented the idea, why don't you just come here? Because my lease was up. I was literally couch surfing. And at the time I was working at a yard house, just literally just making ends meet and interviewing in places. This is after graduation. As soon as she kind of offered that, I was like, okay, I think this could be something I could do. And made that move. And it's been interesting. I think I've definitely threw myself into a situation I couldn't even fathom what I was getting myself into. Coming into not only a new city, but a city that's way larger, way larger than Atlanta. Certainly with way different culture and a whole new region. So many different things that I just would have to experience for the first time, on top of being in a relationship at that time. It was on my list of places to be, and I'm glad I'm here, because I believe that it enriched me and showed me a lot of I think Chicago is good for showing you what your flaws are, because they live in extremes. You know, when it's summertime, they're known to just have really hot summers. When it's wintertime, it's really cold winters. There's a lot of light pollution, so people never see the stars. There's a lot of noise. There's not too much peace in a lot of parts of in this city. Because people are moving. It's working class folks, it's business folks. It's a lot of movement. It's a busy place. And I think because of that, that's what can show you your flaws a lot easier, because you're trying to keep up. You're trying to stick with the Joneses, keep up with the Joneses, and stick in in the process and keep up with the motion of the city. And I think that's when it shows you where you're going to run out of gas. It shows you when, a part of you or some mechanism that you possess starts to become a little faulty, or it's probably always been faulty, but the environment that you was in was nurturing those flaws. And I think that's exactly what I realized once I moved here was, I think I immediately recognized flaws that I believe I, in retrospect, possessed the whole time. And, just didn't realize those things until they were put into this environment where your flaws and your good and your bad come with you in Chicago. You don't separate them. They come with you everywhere you go. And I think that's why so many comedians and so many entertainers always see Chicago as like, if you make it in Chicago, you can make it anywhere. That's why a lot of them say that. And I've heard several different people from, Little Rel and Hannibal Buress and Common. And I've heard a lot of people say that. And I think a lot of people see it as the roughness of quote unquote media, what media puts out about, the violence. I don't think it's just that though. I really don't. I really think it had a lot to do with the culture and the sense of the city, because it's hard. Some people are very hard and very guarded sometimes. But it's a very hard working city. A lot of people are from here, bred here, raised, and a lot of people come back and, start families here too. So it's a very enriched place of just Chicagoans. Like a lot of Chicago is just Chicagoans. It's definitely one of those types of places. And I think people supporting each other, people getting out and just creating platforms for themselves is genuinely a risk in life, and a risk that you're taking to try to get that support and things. And so if you just so happen to be very excelling in whatever it is that you're doing, you're going to, be pushed up, and literally pushed out the city entirely, just because it just seems like that's what the formula is. It's just, for some reason, that just seems what it has been for a lot of people. The people who have done extremely well here do not stay here. And I think it has a lot to do with, because this is like somewhat of an incubator for showing you those flaws. And it's a step in the process of you growing, I believe. And that's why I'm stayed as long as I've stayed, is I believe there's a purpose. Going back to purpose. I believe there's a purpose. I'm here. And because if I didn't come here, I don't know if I would have started my show. If I didn't come here, I don't know if I would have met the people I met. If I didn't come here, I definitely wouldn't be with the woman that I'm with now.
To me, I've never been to Chicago, and I definitely will go there soon. And it's not because I'm leery of violence. I mean, I grew up in Houston, which is a city that's not as big, but very close to as big as Chicago. And
yes,
there's areas in that city where people say, yeah, you go there, you risk your life.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, Chicago, if I'm not mistaken, the metropolitan area has a population of roughly 9 million people.
Mm-hmm.
In Houston, it's over 6. So, I mean, you still have the same issues. You still have the same neighborhoods. We don't have the beautiful lake that you all have up there, but you still have the same issues. The same issues that you have in Chicago, we have in Houston. So the aspect of what about Chicago that bothers me is violence. The pervasive violence is inherently Chicago's, but it's almost as if, well, New York doesn't go through that.
Mm-hmm.
Los Angeles doesn't go through that. I mean, the gang culture is primarily a sticky point, a stereotype heaped upon Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Houston doesn't go through that. Dallas doesn't. New Orleans doesn't. Detroit doesn't. Name any big city, and it doesn't have to be the size of Chicago. It could be something smaller than them.
Mm-hmm.
So you mean to tell me that violence doesn't happen the way it does in Chicago? You mean you tell me it's a war zone in that city as opposed to the others?
Mm-hmm.
That's the aspect that I don't like, because, and I know many Chicagoans besides you. I mean, I know many people who are from there or who live there, and they say, no, man, the city that you hear in the media, it's not how it's portrayed.
It's not,
because for me, The image I get about Chicago is, and you've said it here. It is separated by a more affluent north side and not so affluent south side, which explains perfectly to me why you have the way it's broken down with people who love the Cubs versus the people who love the White Sox. That explains everything to me about that.
Mm-hmm.
You also have the understanding of the city is a tourist attraction all its own.
Yes.
I mean, y'all host an event there that's about food in the summer. So, I mean, and it's one of the biggest events, not just in Chicago, but in the whole country.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, don't even have to mention Wrigley Field. I mean, like I said, that's a tourist attraction. And of course, anything along Michigan Avenue and Lake Michigan and the Magnificent Mile. I mean, you got many different reasons as to why to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, I think about the steppers culture there and how it got popularized. And I'm going to segue into that in a minute. That's popular. And I get the feel of a city that it has all those concerns, but the people are like, you know what? It's all cool, but we're still good. That's the feel I get about Chicago. And then to put the exclamation point on top of it, you mentioned Chicago's rich Black history and Black affluent history.
Mm-hmm.
Two names stand out for me. One is Don Cornelius, because that's where he started Soul Train.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the empire that we now know as Harpo and Oprah Winfrey. When I think Chicago, that's what I think. Yeah. Because the violence, I'm like, it's a huge city. You're going to have the violence there no matter where you go. I don't care what city it is. And that's the opinion I have. And from hearing you, that's the opinion I got. And it doesn't give me pause, because it's like, okay, well, it's just like every other big city I know. You live in Chicago. I wanted to hear from a Chicagoan this. So we have just in this year dealt with Jussie Smollett. Sorry about that, Jussie. Just watched the Chris Rock comedic bit on him. Jussie Smollett and R. Kelly, and in their separate cases, and how each has basically put that fish-eyed lens on the city.
Yes.
So how is the energy there, considering that you have these two different high-profile cases of Jussie Smollett and R. Kelly?
I would say that there's definitely a lot of let me speak to them separately. So when it comes to Jussie, I believe a lot of people don't believe him. A lot of people believe he, essentially just set this thing up. I think that is definitely a strong feeling of, people locally. I feel like they kind of, he knew someone higher up and was able to get some type of leniency on his judgment instead of, whatever. But also there is still this energy of why are y'all spending so much time with this? Like, the people locally genuinely believe he may have just done something very foolish just to get attention. And that's where they begin and end with that. But they try to figure out, why do y'all care so much that y'all are really trying to get him on all these charges, send him to jail for 60 years? There's girls who are literally popping up missing every week. There's this happening in the community. The police department was just, there's more evidence that they were doing corrupt things, and all these things are not being given the same, grandiose coverage and so much vigor, on it. And I think that's what a lot of locals feel about that. It's just simply that y'all, it's not that deep. In terms of R. Kelly is, I think, a special case, because I think there is this, I think people in Chicago are certainly utilizing that sense of, being able to separate art from the person. For me, I did a whole episode on this very topic literally titled "Separate?" Speaking towards there's certain ways that people can kind of, approach their approach the problematic nature of artists and individuals that you may support. And just provided several ways that you can approach it. And I believe it is certainly one of those things that you cannot be black and white on, because there are certain things you're going to make concessions for, and there's certain things that you're not going to make concessions for just because they just don't sit well with you. And I believe that's whoever's prerogative to continue to listen to his music or not. Initially, there definitely was a lot of conversation around his activities. A lot of people came out and were just expressing how they remember seeing him here, remember seeing him do this, remember seeing him doing that, see him all the time in places, or people who had personal anecdotes about him trying things with them or him trying to whatever, when they were younger or recently. And so he is a menace to society, I believe. And I said this, when the docuseries had dropped, I'm like, I feel like this is really impactful because I believe the world feels somewhat responsible too.
Writer and podcast host Rodney Perry joining me on Revelations, and I'm going to bring it home. This segment is something that is near and dear to me because I really believe that what a person does is what we put forth out into the world. So this segment is called Bring to Light.
Yes.
And I will begin because you touched on it a little bit and I saved it for now. The Simply King podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I'll ask two-pronged questions for it. What is the purpose behind it? And what spurred you on to create the show in general?
Yeah, I did say something towards it. Like I said, to repeat, it's the Soulfully Conscious podcast for humans simply being humans. And I left it very open because I did not know what podcasting was. I really didn't understand a lot of what it was. So when I first started the show and I just started to just add the aspects as I learned that I needed them to be there or needed to have these presented and have some sense of, consistency and some type of, kind of mission statement to a certain degree. And that mission statement being that tagline of the Soulfully Conscious podcast was humans simply being humans. This is Simply King. I think for me, it was brought to me by, before I graduated, I seen so many people having like radio shows, like local college radio shows on campus. And I was like, I could do this. I think I could do this. And I think I'll be pretty good at this. And, looked into it, was extremely prepared, created a concept and, segments, had a certain genre that I said I would, produce, from a musical standpoint, and even certain times of day that I believe would be best suitable to the campus community. Nobody was really doing any type of like R&B. I think I was going to try to reposition myself to be kind of like the more lively, young, quiet storm in a way. If there is such thing as a college version of that, to where I play, kind of neo soul and R&B for kind of like the afternoons during your study, during those kind of like study hours is kind of where I was trying to position the show. A lot of people were the administrators and people who were over those certain departments loved the idea, thought it was well needed, because there was no other show that was being operated that had that theme, and had to go through a whole nother person who was somewhat of a student, I guess, administrator, and kind of dragged her feet to kind of give me any type of green light or not, and finally got to go. And it was 2 months before I graduated. Mind you, I started the process in the fall semester. So there's that. And so I just let it go, shelved the idea, didn't think about it again. Obviously, like I said previously, and this my whole kind of journey and story ended up coming here. And then a friend of mine who I've had on the show several times, he goes by Stretch Green, and Stretch brought it back to me. Stretch was supposed to be a part of that iteration of Simply King. He was going to be a person who kind of helped me curate my playlist and music for the show. He brought the idea back to me of, have you ever thought about doing a podcast? And I was like, I don't even know what a podcast is. And that was 4 years ago, and here we are. And the purpose of my show I feel like it changed and grew. And I think it took 2 years for it to finally have a true sense of like what it is. And I believe it's a beautiful balance of cultural criticism, where you can not only get a good perspective, but also I try my best to provide a sense of nuance to all the things of the world, pull out the funny in certain things, pull out the interesting in certain things that may be overlooked. Just go deeper, for us to be deeper. And all in all, I think my purpose in life is genuinely to learn the most I can about improving myself so I can teach others on how to improve themselves. And I believe talking and speaking and having these conversations is one of the vehicles to get to that destination. Because I'm becoming more aware of myself, becoming more aware of my words, my thoughts, certainly becoming open to ideas, open to opinions, able to still form my own opinion. I think that's the beauty of it all, because I think I do this, and I could do this just cause. Yeah, I think about it all the time. I think about podcasting all the time. Everything can be an episode. People are bringing things to me. People definitely see me as a person that I would love to talk to you about this. Oh, I would love to do this with you. And I think if I'm the one that's going to be the one to start conversations, just throw things out there, I believe I'm in the right medium. I'm in the right track. And I believe ultimately I want those things to not only just start as conversations, but lead to actions and lead to change, real change in yourself and in people for just as the world goes. Because I believe we just need that. We need to talk about these things. Like, I love how this week I seen so many, I think it was Eddie Gao. I forgot his name. He's a political analyst, I believe, on MSNBC. And he was saying something that I believe got a lot of traction, where he was just saying, like, this is us. Stop saying, like, this is not us. This is not America, for all these specific tragic events that have occurred in the past few days. This is us. This has always been us. This has been a part of us the whole time. Literally did an episode, maybe 2 years ago, called America Being America. And so, just like I said, I feel like I do believe I'm not, in reinventing the wheel, but I do believe that I'm going to do my best to continuously shine light on the things I believe that aren't getting enough shine, or continuously elaborate on the things I believe we need to continuously elaborate on. Like, yeah, I know we had like a little conversation about this, but I think we need to extend this and break this down and talk about this more. Just bringing out those aspects of what it is, because I really want to reach the people of my generation. But I believe the fact that, it can touch anybody, because I'm talking about things historically. I'm talking about things in the now, just talking about very universal things. And I think if anything, my show has proven that no matter who you are and where you come from, you can relate to the show. You can find something you need from the show, from the content in a sense, because even if you feel like the show is even a certain episode may be so specific and so whatever, go back to it. I do believe my show is one of those shows that, you can revisit when it makes more sense to you, when you've probably went through that experience, or probably now have come into knowledge of a specific aspect of culture and society. And you can come back here. You can come back. It's free. It's not just, it's not a limited amount of listens. Come back and listen. And that's what I feel like I'm doing, because I've literally been able to reach and talk to people from around the world, and it feels beautiful. It feels great. I don't know if I would have been able to do that if I didn't start with this medium. So that's how I know I'm supposed to be in this industry. That's how I know I'm supposed to be someone who is adding to it and adding to the zeitgeist of the world, and trying to, shift paradigms for people to think differently. Being able to talk to people like yourself and other podcasters is just a gift that I believe, I think about now. I am so thankful for, and I believe that's what I'm here for. I believe I'm here to question myself enough that I need to get better. And it literally makes everyone else around me want to do the same. And it's not even a overt righteousness that I possess. I believe it's more so I know who I am. I know I'm human. And that's just simply me.
Well, that is pretty much it for the show. But before I go, this portion is called Plug Tuning. So in the honor of De La Soul, I've always loved that song, tell the wonderful people how they can find you.
Yes, you can find the Simply King podcast everywhere podcasts are available. It is a show that I believe everyone can enjoy, one that is certainly informational, entertaining. I feel like I'm equally informational, but also entertaining and funny and all those different things. And I bring on some great guests, a lot of great people, a lot of wonderful individuals with beautiful experiences. You can follow me everywhere at Kings_Memoirs. It's my personal page. And you can also follow the Simply King Pod Instagram page. And Simply King Podcast. So you can find that everywhere. Make sure when you come on in, listen, leave a review. I don't care if it's negative or positive. The feedback always makes everything better. That's all it's about. So always remember, the Soulfully Conscious Podcast for humans simply being humans. I'm Rodney Perry. And
this is one of the most enlightened human beings you'll ever know. It's been a privilege for me to get to know this guy, and I look forward to hearing more about him. And I look forward to bonding with him more as well. And not just with this type of conversation, but in future conversations to come.
Certainly.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been one of the most intellectual people I've ever met. Intellectual, writer, just an all-around good human being, and the host of the Simply King podcast, Rodney Perry. and King, the moniker. Thank you for your royal presence. You have just enriched my life, and I look forward to seeing how many more lives you enrich. Thank you so much.
For far too long, we have suffered time and time again with understanding what we need to do on this planet, how we need to advance in the world, what one voice or what one powerful body of voices can come against the tide of the opposing force that is coming against us. As we see violence everywhere, debauchery everywhere, and it's going unchecked. The one thing that gives me hope is that there are voices much like Rodney's that is willing to stand up, speak out, and do something about the tide rising against the force of good. The word says, the rich and the poor meet together. The Lord is the maker of them all. Seemingly, I'm hearing too much of the wrong things and not enough of the right. And with this gentleman, I am hearing some of the right things being spoken. And I'm so glad that he is lending his voice to the voiceless, and as well as the voice of the people who do have one, but is afraid to use it. Because this gentleman is not afraid to speak his mind. Many thanks to Rodney Perry, and you can check out the Simply King podcast wherever you can catch podcasts. And you can check out where you can also find him in the show notes as well. For changing the world, one conversation at a time. I am Cole Johnson, And this has been Revelations. For more on Revelations, go to Pippa, spelled PIPPA.io, and all podcast directories. Music by Lakey Inspire.